7 very boring hours later. Later that same morning. 6.5 ridiculous hours later. 9 unbelievable hours later. 12 hours later. After 20 hours at a show repair shop. 11 hours later. After Lee, Quincy, Annie, and June arrived at their house. 20 really boring hours later. After Notikins arrived at their house. 13 hours later. Later, at his YouTuber pit.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
2 minutes, 37 seconds later. 1 pair of shows later. When Franny Fantuzzi arrived at North Pole Castle. Meanwhile, at the Golden Armor Stadium. Several song tracks later. A few rocker characters later. 1 million gutters later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
Meanwhile, at Stonehenge.
So much later that the old narrator got on the poor actress going to the North Pole, and he had to come back to this one.
A ton of where will my feet take me today, later.
Where will my feet take me today?
Be quiet. 12 o'clock, noon. 15 hours of sleep later. 6 minutes, 37 seconds later. Later, in the dark. 50 ghosts, 55 pumpkins later. The next morning. Later that same afternoon. 30 turkeys later. 20 chickens freeze, 60 apple peas, 75 pumpkin peas later.
So much later that the old narrator got considerable fun, and they had to bring him back to this one for a few weeks.
15 hours of sleep later. 4 to 6 hours later. 4 to 6 seconds later. 37 seconds later. After Davy Stone arrived at the mall.
3,000 bottles of folk juices later.
Would you please stop imitating me? It is starting to get very annoying.
4 to 6 minutes later. After Whitey and Eleanor arrived at community center. Several moments later. More later.
So much later that the old narrator got called today. They had to bring him back to this one for a couple days.
5 billion Christmas presents later.
Stop irritating. There's Al on her way, and this is starting to get really mad.
80,000 years later.
That's it. You asked for it.
So much later that the old narrator ran away, and they had to bring him back to this one.
4 days later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.